Hi, Kimberly here from Make Me a PT. I've just jumped on just to do a quick video so you can understand the breakdown of the agonist versus the antagonist. Okay, so brilliant. So, as you know, we love a cheat sheet and we want to break it down in the simplest form for every one of our learners. Because sometimes you can hear all these like different words and they just sound a little bit like, oh my goodness, how am I going to remember the difference? How am I going to know what one is compared to the other? But again, we make it as easy as possible. And I've got to admit, I do get tongue-tied saying these. Being dyslexic, I'm like, oh my God, they sound exactly the same. So I am with you 100%. Okay, so the first one is the agonist, and that is the prime mover. So that is the muscle that's doing all the work. So it's the one that's doing all the exercise, the one that you are targeting. So when you do a bicep curl, you know that you are working your bicep muscles, okay? And then the antagonist, I said it right, is the opposite. So for example, it relaxes and lengthens while the antagonist contracts, okay? I just said that word wrong, but you know what I mean. Okay, so it's when it relaxes and lengthens while you're doing the exercise that you're intended to do. So for example, when you do a bicep curl, your tricep is your opposite muscle. So that is what we're looking for. So the muscle that is working compared to the opposite muscle, which is your antagonistic muscle, okay? So the best way to remember it is the first one is antagonist, is agonist. So it's agonist, it's a muscle that's doing the work. It's a muscle that's moving, it's a muscle that's doing all the burning, it's a muscle that you can really, really feel. The antagonist is the anti, so it's against, it's the opposite. And I think sometimes it's a really, really great way because when you look at them, they can look very, very similar. They can look like they sound very similar, they look very similar. So it's a way of breaking it down to say, oh, okay, now I get it. So it's a way of differentiating between the two. So yeah, write it down. So for example, the bicep is the antagonist, which is shortened while you're doing the lift, and the tricep is the antagonist while it relaxes, allowing the movement. Okay, so feel it. So do a curl so you can see the bicep is shortening. It's shortening while this muscle is becoming longer. So they work in sync together. So here's a couple of examples. So you got your bicep curl, again your tricep push down. So these are just a few little key points for you to remember the difference. And I think sometimes just by telling you that isn't always enough because you can walk away thinking, right, I get that, I understand it now. But then when you come to put it into practice, it's kind of like everything goes out the window, you start questioning yourself. And I've been there, I know that. So I've gone a little bit above and beyond because I want you to understand it when you're working out as well, okay? So the key pairs, okay? So your biceps and your triceps. So write it down. And I always say to people, write it down as you are going to teach it because you are going to be teaching this, okay? Because sometimes when you come to start making plans and understanding how the body works, you kind of sometimes freeze in time and kind of think, I know this, but it's just not there right now. It's not coming to mind. So write it down. So these are the pairs. So these are the muscles that are being worked compared to the opposite. So for example, if you was to do a superset, you would either have to do the same muscle group or you would have to do the opposite, okay? You'd have to work the same pairs or the same, okay? So if you was going to do a superset and work the opposites of the muscles, you would do the bicep, which is doing the work, the tricep, which is allowing and helping. It's the opposite. Then we have the triceps, which is doing the work. Sorry, not the triceps, the quadriceps, which is doing the work. And then we have the hamstrings. We have the pectorals, which is remember, it's the chest. Then we have the trapezius and rhomboids, which is right on your back. Then we have front deltoids and rear deltoids there. Then we have the abdomen, and then we have the lower back here. Then we have the hip flexors, which is doing the work, and the gluteus maximus. And then we have the tibialis anterior, forgot that's my word then. And then we have the gastrocnemius soleus. So remember, the bicep, if you're working the bicep, then the opposite is the tricep. If you're working the tricep, you're working the bicep. So all of these here are in line with each other as well. So it's really remembering these. So what would be really, really great, what I would say to people is do a bicep plan and then do a bicep plan that with the opposites. Okay, so at least then you can kind of put them together. Okay, so for every time you do one of these, make sure you are adding the other. So for what I say as well in terms of this, if you are creating a plan, say for example you're doing a full body exercise, rather than if you're going to do like two chest, do two back, make sure that it's in sync. Because what we kind of find, or what we have done in our fitness industry before even Make Me a PT, is for example you could see, for example, if a guy was over training chest, and I only say guy because it's what I've seen in the industry, you can tell whether a guy overtrains their chest, because what happens is their muscles become tight and you can see that they kind of rotate round. Okay, so in that instance, what I've had to do is I've had to say, right, do you work your chest a lot? Yeah, and they're like, yeah, but buzzing, of course I do. Right, what we need to do now is work the opposite muscle. So it has to work together. They work together. So if you overwork one and not the other, there's going to be an imbalance. Okay, so for example, if you're going to do a chest exercise, do a back exercise. You're going to do two chest, do two back, but make sure that they're in sync. Obviously, if you're working with bodybuilders and might do a chest day, make sure they do a back day. We have people that'll do oh, I want to do biceps, but I don't want to do like legs or something like that. But it all kind of connects. Obviously, upper body and like a leg move isn't the pairs. But you need to make sure that when you're training somebody or when you're writing a plan, that it all connects. It's all connected, and we're not missing anything out, because it will cause an imbalance. I'm very passionate about that, very, very passionate, and definitely start to look for it. You will see signs of when people will prefer to work a certain part of their body compared to the opposite. Again, everything is interlinked. You've seen how amazing the body is. Everything is interlinked. So we need to make sure that if you're working one, you're working the opposites as well, because it will cause an imbalance. And like I say, you can visually see that, and I've had to work with that to undo that. So and be aware of that. You might see it in the industry as well. Okay, so we've also got this. It's not something that we kind of tend to cover on too much, but it's almost like the helper. So for example, if you're doing a chest press, which we know is working your pectorals, you kind of got to remember that you are working your chest, but there is almost like a secondary muscle that is like the helper that's working there, which is your tricep. So again, it's making sure that if you was to train your back and your chest and things like that as well, other muscles really do help support that. So for example, if someone's really, really bench pressing and they're really, really struggling because the chest is doing amazing, but then the little helper muscle, they need to build on like the tricep and the front and like anterior delts. There's little muscle. That's why I say everything is interlinked. Everything really helps each other. So again, they might have a really good, strong chest press, which is going to help with the chest. But if they're not helping or building the triceps, that's going to really put them blockers in place for them to move that step forward. So then you might need to go, right, we need to make sure we're working on them triceps. Let's do a bicep and tricep and then work it in that way as well. So it's not really something we're covering at the moment, but it's definitely worth looking at because it does interlink all times again. So there is a little bit there. You can have a little, again, all this is something that I've created that I give to all our learners, because it's really important that I want you to understand, and I want it to be simple as possible. I want it to be as simple. I don't want you to think, going, oh my gosh, what have I signed up to? It's really complicated. I want you to go, right, got it. She's explained that really, really well. Yeah, so again, it's just going through that. And again, it's just like making sure, again, I've wrote down again the opposites as well. So we've got the biceps, the triceps, and again, it's just making sure that we've got lots of things that we can have a look at, again, like chest press push-ups, working your pectorals, and then what the opposites are, because sometimes you can sit there and just think, I know this, but I've just had a mind blank. I've just had a complete mind blank. We've all done it. So again, it's just, I've created here a bit of a list of every exact screenshot if you want, or whatever. Like I say, all our members have access to this. They can print it and have it with them all the time. So again, it's just having a list of exercises that works together. And again, it's also as well really knowing as well, like bicep versus tricep, bicep front, upper arm. It's just knowing that little bit of going a little bit more deeper into it because the body is so amazing. But again, it's having them explanations as well. It's like, so for example, muscles with the exercise, so biceps, you could do like a bicep curl, hammer curl, chin up. Triceps, you could do push down, dips, overhead tricep extensions. And again, it's when you bend the elbow, like it's basically telling you exactly how it works. I'm not going to sit here and read it to you because I'd end up being like that. But yeah, it's everything is really, really explained. Everything is making sure that you understand um the difference as well. So again, with the delts, it's really, really good. And it's something that Adam actually taught me years and years and years ago. So if you think of your delts, it almost looks like a garlic clove. So I can't take the credit for this. It is completely Adam. So remember, it's like a garlic clove. You've got your front, middle, and rear. And that's a really, really good way to visualize that, you've got to make sure that if you're working your front and your mid and your back, you've also got to work your side as well. But again, so for your front here, again, there's a couple of exercises that you can use, and it's explaining how to do them as well. Again, we don't want you to feel overwhelmed as well. And again, it's like, yeah, I think they added on like the different locations of the glutes. And I'm just going to quickly run down because I think there might be something else. Da, da, da. Oh, here we've got, so I've got like bicep curl again. So again, it's kind of going into exactly what the muscles are actually being used as well, because it's okay saying just a bicep, but what part of the biceps being used? Because now you should know that there are two heads, and obviously triceps, we should know that there are more different bits. So here again, it's making sure that you are just using that terminology just a little bit more clearer, rather than just saying, I'm going to do a bench, I'm going to be working chest, it's going to be working. So we can just go that little bit deeper and just pointing out exactly what we're working. But again, it's all here for us. Explanations. I think there's like 10 of each. Oh, we've even got a little bit more. Again, it's just working. Oh, I think we might have a lot more actually kind of going on here again, but it's really, really great because it brings in the muscles being used, and yeah, which is brilliant. There we go. Da, 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 there's loads. I'm not gonna, can you imagine if I ran? I think there's like 50 on here, I think. Oh, 50, yes. So there are 50 that we've created because, again, I want it to make it as easy as possible. Again, if you're not already one of our learners and want to find out more, get in touch definitely, because again, you watch our videos and we want to make sure that every learner has everything they need, even more so because we want it to be as relatable as possible. Hope you have enjoyed that video. Good luck. Bye.